Hi, my name is Sharon and I'm the founder of Oma Beauty. And if you're a Black business owner, then yeah, you better watch this. So here's my advice to you. Be resilient, do not give up, and always show up. Wake up every day and turn up, and you never know where you could go.
On August 14th, 2025, the world of beauty lost one of its brightest stars. 38-year-old Mogul Sharon was found lifeless on the patio of her Los Angeles home. But this wasn't just another tragic headline. This was the final scene of a real-life corporate thriller worth nearly $50 million. A woman who built an empire from nothing, only to have it ripped away by the very people she trusted most. Betrayal, greed, silence, and a death that still doesn't add up. The truth is, Sharon's story was never ordinary. She wasn't just building a beauty brand.
Dad!
Yes.
But I'm happy too. And do you know why I'm happy?
Process.
Because in the words of Fred Hampton, you can kill a liberator, but you cannot kill a liberation.
She was shaking an entire industry to its core. And when you challenge billion-dollar corporations, you don't just make competitors. You make enemies. 6 months before her death, Sharon filed an explosive lawsuit. She accused her own business partners of stealing her empire while she was on medical leave. She called it fraud. They called her delusional. Someone wanted her gone. But here's what makes this case chilling. After weeks of investigation, her cause of death is still listed as deferred. That means the medical examiner couldn't, or wouldn't, say how she died. Meanwhile, her company was sold off for millions to the exact same people she was fighting in court. Her lawsuit, which could have exposed a massive conspiracy, ended with her. And the people she accused? They're running her empire today. Coincidence or cover-up? Drop a comment right now. Do you think Sharon was murdered? Because as we dig deeper into her life and her final months, you'll see why this question refuses to go away. To understand Sharon...
It's impossible. Our brains were scientifically proven to be less and inferior to men. Yet, look at where we are today. Nothing is unchangeable.
Sharon's story, you need to start at the very beginning. Long before she was a headline, she was a teenager in Lagos, Nigeria. While most kids her age were worried about exams and friendships, Sharon was already running businesses. At just 17, she spotted something the world's biggest beauty brands had overlooked: Nigeria. Global companies had abandoned the country, writing it off as unprofitable. But Sharon saw opportunity. She began distributing products nationwide, building networks, and proving that beauty wasn't just a Western monopoly. Imagine being a teenager, not old enough to drink in America, but already controlling product distribution for an entire country. That's the Sharon difference. Her success sent a loud message. There was money, respect, and power in the markets the big players ignored. And Sharon was the one bold enough to claim it. But success like Sharon's doesn't come free. Behind the glamorous headlines was a woman sacrificing everything. She married young, but her relentless work destroyed the relationship. 18-hour days, weekends lost to endless meetings, and a marriage erased from her public life. She spoke openly about her Nigerian heritage, her activism, and her vision for business. But about her ex-husband? Silence. Why? Was it just privacy, or was there something more? Because in the world of true crime, we know this. The most dangerous threats often come from the people closest to us. What do you think? Was Sharon simply protecting her privacy, or was there something darker about the past she worked so hard to keep hidden? Let me know in the comments, because this detail is going to matter later. After conquering Nigeria,
especially for women, occupies a very personal space for us. Beauty products are tools to express ourselves, and they can be super empowering because they can be things that you use to reinforce messages back to yourself. That's where as an industry we need to do a better job to make sure that we're sending out the right messages so people are using these products for the right purposes.
Sharon moved abroad. She worked inside major beauty corporations in Australia and beyond. But these weren't just jobs. These were training grounds. Every meeting she attended, every marketing strategy she witnessed, every secret tactic companies used to control the industry, she memorized them all. Sharon wasn't just an employee. She was a silent spy, Gathering intelligence for the battle she knew she'd fight one day. By the time she launched her own brand, she had something her competitors feared most: insider knowledge combined with the moral authority to call them out.
We should be happy. And so I hope that you find joy. I hope you find peace. And I hope you find solitude in whoever or the group of people that continue to make this existence of all beautiful. So thank you so, so much, guys. I appreciate it.
In 2019, Sharon finally declared war on the system. She launched WMA Beauty, Wulma, meaning beautiful in her native Igbo language. But to corporate America, that brand name meant trouble. While major brands offered 10 or 15 foundation shades, Sharon launched with 51. She didn't just sell makeup, she exposed the industry's failures. Within months, Wulma Beauty landed prime spots in Ulta, Nordstrom, and JCPenney, retail placements that usually take years to secure. By 2020, the company was making $15 million annually. But Sharon wasn't satisfied. She didn't just want sales. She wanted to prove inclusivity was profitable. She wanted to prove that beauty wasn't limited to one skin tone, one narrative, one culture. And in doing so, she embarrassed some of the biggest names in beauty. Then came 2020, the year that changed everything. As racial justice protests shook America, Sharon launched her Pull Up for Change campaign, demanding corporations reveal their diversity numbers. Not slogans, not hashtags, actual data. Her campaign went viral worldwide. Fortune 500 companies scrambled, embarrassed, exposed. And Sharon? She became a global voice for accountability. But here's the problem. Corporate America doesn't forgive humiliation, and Sharon had humiliated them publicly. She had turned activism into profit, built a brand on exposing their failures, and forced billion-dollar companies to answer questions they had avoided for decades. She wasn't just running a company anymore. She was leading a movement, and movements like that make powerful enemies. So ask yourself, did Sharon's fight for diversity and justice make her a target? Was her success the very reason she was silenced? Drop your theory below, because the betrayal that followed next will make your blood boil. By late 2022, Sharon had been working nonstop for years. Endless product launches, global campaigns, interviews, activism. It was taking a toll. She spoke openly about exhaustion, about the sacrifices she made, about how she had no life outside her business. So, when she finally announced a temporary medical leave, it seemed like a well-deserved pause. To the world, it looked like self-care. To her so-called business partners, it looked like
It is not an easy path, I can tell you that. It is definitely not for the faint-hearted. You know, a very smart person once said, entrepreneurship is like chewing glass.
opportunity. Because while Sharon was away recovering, something far darker was happening inside WMA Beauty. According to the lawsuit she later filed, Sharon discovered the unthinkable. The very partners she had trusted, people she believed were protecting her company, were quietly seizing control. Decisions were being made without her. Operations were changing without her input. Contracts were being signed as if she no longer existed. By the time she tried to return, Sharon was locked out of her own creation. Imagine building a $15 million company from scratch, only to wake up one day and find out you no longer had access to your emails, your accounts, or even the brand that carried your cultural identity in its name. They told the public they were protecting the business during a difficult time. But Sharon knew better. This wasn't protection. It was a hostile takeover disguised as management. Under the control of Brain Trust Fund, the investment group that had positioned itself inside her board, WMA Beauty began to collapse. Orders went unfulfilled. Social media accounts went silent. Customers were left waiting, angry, confused. Suppliers started suing over unpaid invoices. Was this all incompetence? Or was it deliberate sabotage designed to destroy the company's value? Sharon's legal team would argue it was the latter, a calculated demolition job to make her empire cheap enough for someone else to snatch. And that's exactly what happened. In December 2023, a fintech lender called Settle Funding moved to foreclose on WMA Beauty's $6.2 million debt. But foreclosures don't just happen overnight. They take months of missed payments, ignored negotiations, and strategic stalling. Somebody had allowed this crisis to build while Sharon was shut out. Somebody wanted the company to fail. And then came the final blow: the secured party sale, the legal mechanism that allows lenders to auction off a company's assets. Guess who showed up as the so-called rescuers? MacArthur Beauty LLC, tied to a powerful private equity network. They swooped in and bought Sharon's brand, her intellectual property, her life's work, for the exact price of the outstanding debt, $6.2 million. A company Sharon claimed was worth nearly $50 million was stolen for the price of a loan. That's not a rescue. That's daylight robbery in a courtroom. When Sharon fought back, Brain Trust Fund had the audacity to offer her $288,000 for her shares, less than 1% of what her company was worth. It wasn't a negotiation, it was humiliation, a way to push her out, erase her, and make her surrender. But Sharon didn't surrender. On February 25, 2025, she walked into Los Angeles County Superior Court and declared war. She filed a lawsuit naming every single person who betrayed her: Brain Trust Fund, Settle Funding, MacArthur Beauty, and MacArthur Companies themselves. She accused them of fraudulent transfer, unjust enrichment, and systematic corporate theft. And she came armed with something her enemies feared most: evidence. Sharon had board meeting minutes, emails, financial records, even recordings. She had been there when the deals were being made. She knew exactly how the game was played because she had lived it. This wasn't speculation. This wasn't conspiracy. This was documented betrayal in black and white. Her lawsuit read like a crime thriller, with dates, signatures, and dollar amounts. It was the kind of evidence that could destroy reputations, trigger criminal investigations, and put billion-dollar players in handcuffs. And the defendants knew it. That's why they didn't just defend themselves, they went on the attack. They called her delusional. They questioned her mental state. They painted her as a reckless founder who had mismanaged her company into the ground. But ask yourself, if she was so incompetent, why did MacArthur Beauty jump at the chance to acquire her brand? Why were they so desperate to silence her? This wasn't about competence. This was about crushing the one woman who dared to fight back. At the same time, they turned the money taps off. Sharon was still owed $750,000 from an earlier financing round, money she desperately needed to fund her legal fight. But they refused to pay. Instead, they buried her in motions, depositions, and endless paperwork designed to bleed her dry financially. This wasn't just a courtroom battle. It was financial warfare. They had unlimited resources. She was fighting with scraps. But Sharon refused to fold. She doubled down. She demanded her company back, damages, and justice. Make no mistake, these weren't small-time crooks. Sharon was up against some of the most ruthless players in finance. Todd Bourne, managing partner of MacArthur Beauty, a specialist in scooping up distressed assets at bargain bin prices. Tony Bash, who became WMA's new CEO, a man known for restructuring companies in ways that left founders with nothing. Brain Trust Fund, investors who circle like vultures, waiting for weakness. And Settle Funding, the convenient lender who played their part in engineering the foreclosure. Together, they formed a machine designed to strip Sharon of everything she built. And she knew it. That's why her lawsuit was so dangerous. It didn't just name names. It threatened to expose their entire playbook. By mid-2025, Sharon's case was heating up. Discovery was underway. Emails were being subpoenaed. Financial records were being pulled. Depositions were scheduled. The defendants had tried everything to stall, but nothing worked. Sharon was getting closer to her day in court, and that's when the threats escalated. According to filings, Sharon was pressured repeatedly to withdraw her case. They weren't just denying her claims anymore. They were trying to break her will. But Sharon had built her life on refusing to be silenced. She wasn't going to stop now. Think about this. By summer 2025, Sharon had her evidence, she had her case, and she was weeks away from exposing everything in open court. And then, just like that, she was gone. A healthy 38-year-old woman found dead on her patio. Her cause of death mysteriously deferred. Do you really think that's a coincidence? Or was Sharon Shooter silenced before she could speak the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because the final chapter of her story is where the unanswered questions become impossible to ignore. On August 14th, 2025, Sharon Shooter was found unresponsive on the patio of her Los Angeles home. Not in her bedroom, not in her office, not behind closed doors, on an open patio where anyone could see her. That detail alone raises questions. Why was she outside? Was she meeting someone she didn't trust enough to let inside? Was she lured out by a familiar voice? Or was she trying to escape from someone already in her home? These are questions investigators never answered, and the silence is deafening. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner listed her cause of death as deferred. That term means the pathologist couldn't immediately explain how she died. And for a healthy 38-year-old woman to die suddenly, the possibilities are limited. Heart attack, stroke, aneurysm. All of these leave physical evidence. Yet weeks passed and still no answers. Toxicology tests were ordered, but toxicology doesn't usually take this long unless they're searching for something unusual, something exotic, something designed to leave little trace. The strangeness didn't stop there. Sharon died on August 14th, but the public didn't hear about it until more than a week later. In today's world, celebrity deaths make headlines within hours. Yet here, silence. That silence gave someone time to close doors, tie up loose ends, clean up whatever mess Sharon's death left behind. Ask yourself, who benefited from that week of silence? Because the people who gained the most are the same people Sharon accused of stealing her empire. Meanwhile, the lawsuit she had filed, her final act of defiance, was instantly weakened. Dead plaintiffs don't testify. Dead plaintiffs don't sit in courtrooms pointing fingers at their betrayers. Dead plaintiffs don't drag corporations into the light. The timing was perfect for everyone she had accused. MacArthur Beauty, who had taken over her brand for pennies on the dollar, now operated freely. Brain Trust Fund, whose takeover tactics were under scrutiny, no longer faced Sharon's relentless questioning. Settle Funding, whose conveniently timed foreclosure had enabled the sale, now looked like a standard lender instead of a co-conspirator. In one moment, all of them were off the hook. Think about this. Sharon had spent months preparing for discovery. Her lawyers were subpoenaing documents, digging through emails, getting ready to question executives under oath. The defendants were running out of maneuvers. They couldn't stall forever. They couldn't hide the evidence forever. Sharon was days, maybe weeks, from putting everything in front of a judge. And then she died. If this was just coincidence, it's the kind of coincidence that makes even the most skeptical person pause. But let's talk about that patio. People don't typically walk outside to have heart attacks. They don't step on patios to end their own lives when they have an entire house to retreat into. A patio is public, visible, exposed. If someone wanted to stage a death, a patio is the perfect stage. If someone wanted the body found quickly, a patio guarantees it. If someone wanted to send a message, leaving her out, they're made sure the message landed. And that message is chilling. Fight us and look what happens. What about law enforcement? No press conferences, no public updates, no suspects named. For a woman fighting a $50 million lawsuit against powerful corporate interests, that silence should make us all uneasy. Police are usually quick to reassure the public in high-profile cases. Here, they said nothing. Was it incompetence? Or was someone making sure this stayed quiet? And the medical examiner still deferred. Still no answers. The longer they delay, the more suspicion grows. Because medical examiners don't defer obvious cases. They defer complicated ones, suspicious ones, cases where the story doesn't match the evidence. And then there's what Sharon knew. This wasn't just about her company. She had insider knowledge of how corporate America operates in the shadows. She had seen the deals. She had the emails. She had the financial records. She wasn't just suing for herself. She was threatening to expose an entire system of corporate theft and manipulation. With her death, that knowledge died too. Her documents may exist, but without her voice to explain them, they lose power. Without her testimony, her enemies gained breathing room. Dead people don't testify. Dead people don't win lawsuits. The aftermath tells you everything. MacArthur Beauty released a carefully worded statement, honoring Sharon as the visionary founder of WMA Beauty. But notice what they didn't say. No mention of the lawsuit. No denial of her accusations. No shock about her sudden death. Just sterile corporate language, reviewed by lawyers, designed to look respectful while saying nothing. And while the public mourned, those same corporations continued to profit from her stolen brand. WMA Beauty moved on without her. The executives she accused moved on without her. The lawsuit faded into legal limbo. Sharon was gone, and with her, the biggest threat to their empire disappeared. This is where the story turns from tragedy into something darker. Because Sharon's death doesn't just end her fight. It sends a message to every entrepreneur, every activist, every outsider who dares to challenge corporate power. Speak out, and you might end up like Sharon. Sue us, and look what happens. Fight back, and watch how quickly your cause of death becomes deferred. Whether or not Sharon was murdered, her death achieved what her enemies needed. It silenced her. It bought them freedom. It erased their biggest problem. So what do you believe? Was this a natural tragedy? Or was Sharon's shooter eliminated to stop her from exposing the truth? Was she a victim of exhaustion and stress, or a target of calculated retaliation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is where your voice matters. Cases like this often die when the victim dies, unless the public refuses to let them. Share this video, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss our investigations into corruption, conspiracies, and the stories powerful people want buried. Sharon's voice was silenced, but ours doesn't have to be. Sharon Shooter built more than a company. She built a movement. She proved that inclusivity was profitable. She forced billion-dollar corporations to answer questions they had avoided for decades. She embarrassed them publicly, cost them money, and refused to play by their rules. And for that, she paid the ultimate price. Her death solved a $50 million problem for her enemies. But for the rest of us, it created a question that won't go away. Who killed Sharon Shooter? Her body, or the system she fought against? This case is far from closed. And if her story teaches us anything, it's that justice doesn't always come from courtrooms. Sometimes, it comes from people refusing to look away. Sharon deserves that. Her legacy demands that. And as long as questions remain unanswered, we can't let this story fade into silence.